Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow continues to recover from a calf strain. The 26-year-old went down in practice on July 27th. Since then, we've seen him throw publicly once, but he hasn't practiced since the injury. Kimberly, what are you hearing about Burrow?
Unfortunately, Molly, the Bengals are being very tight-lipped about Joe Burrow's availability as far as when he'll get on the practice field. The expectation, however, is that he will play that September 10th game against the Browns, the game that I actually will be covering. But we haven't seen them practice, and Zach Taylor, their head coach, wouldn't say if we would see Joe Burrow this week. He also, when asked about how he's progressing, he pretty much said, yeah, he's got a healthy body. He looks as great as he can walking around. But he doesn't seem overwhelmed. So that's what gives me at least some optimism. The head coach doesn't seem overwhelmed. But again, we won't know, Molly, until September 10th rolls around.
Absolutely. All right, let's stay with that subject here, guys. And according to Caesar Sportsbook, Patrick Mahomes is favored to win his second consecutive MVP, with Joe Burrow right behind him in line, potentially to win his first. And Burrow's AFC North rival, Lamar Jackson, slots in at number 6. Guys, we know how talented this conference, this division is. Stephen A., who has the better chance at winning MVP this year? Do you feel like it's Burrow or Lamar?
I think it's going to be Lamar Jackson. That to me. Remember, his first full season as a starter, he only became the second unanimous league MVP in history. I think the first one, if I remember correctly, just looking at my notes, I think that it was once upon a time was Tom Brady. But we know what Lamar Jackson brings to the table in terms of his electrifying talent. And remember, the MVP is a regular season award. And so when we look at it from that perspective, as great as I know Joe Burrow to be, and I think he is an absolute stud, there are so many other components that come into the equation that contributes to the success of the Cincinnati Bengals. Their defense is vastly improved in recent memory. Zach Taylor has proven himself to be a quality coach. Obviously, Mixon can run with the football. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Boyd and what they can do obviously has a lot to do with Burrow throwing them the football. But then, nevertheless, you don't look at Cincinnati Bengals and look at them as asking of Joe Burrow what the Baltimore Ravens have religiously asked of Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson has carried this franchise, and we saw what has happened when he hasn't been able to carry this franchise. Huntley backing him up was a respectable 2-3 record in the 5 games that Lamar Jackson has missed, even though he fumbled in the playoffs, and that led to the Cincinnati Bengals returning at damn near 100 yards. And because of the mercurial talents that he has and his ability to run the football, now that you've acquired OBJ and you've drafted Zay Flowers in these boys, when you look at what he's going to be asked, the eye of it, Dan and Kim, is going to be on him because of his contract, because of what he's being asked to do, and how that responsibility is going to elevate even more so now. Before, we just wanted him to do it whatever way he could. But now you're going to expect him to specifically throw the football. And if he throws the football effectively, not to say that he hasn't in the past, but now that you're looking for that based on the weapons that he's had, because you're looking for it, if he does it effectively, I think in the mind's eye, it's going to look at people, it's going to make people look at him and say, wow, he's elevated his game even more. With Joe Burrow, we already know he's there. So we're gonna take it for granted. You know how we talk about voters sometimes and how you're looking at some of these awards and we take for granted what their greatness is. I think with Joe Burrow throwing the football, that's how people are going to look at him. But I think when we see Lamar Jackson, we're going to say, wow, this is something we don't believe we've seen from him on that level before. And I think that's going to give him the edge in the mind's eye of voters. And that's going to position him to capture league MVP. It's going to position him better to do so than Burrow.
Yeah, Joe Burrow is my answer. And everyone knows how much I love Lamar. I've picked Lamar for a couple years to win MVP. But this brings up like a little bit of a bigger issue for me right now with what's going on. Like, I don't know what happened this offseason, but Joe Burrow, for some reason, and even Josh Allen are being like overlooked and doubted and shades getting thrown their way. Joe Burrow counted for over 40 touchdowns and almost 5,000 yards last year. And now we're sitting here going, as much as I love Lamar, we're going, is Lamar in a better chance to go win the MVP than Joe Burrow?
Oh, please.
Who's got no. Who's got the best offensive line he's ever had this year? Finally, Joe Burrow's become, at worst, the second best quarterback in the NFL with one of the worst offensive lines.
You're making up a narrative.
And no.
Nobody has said no. What headline have you seen somebody throwing shade at Joe Burrow? Who are these people?
Did you see the top 100
I need
player
to find
ranking?
them. Where have they? Who's throwing shade at Joe Burrow?
First of all, you just said that you think Lamar has a better chance to win MVP, which is
That's not throwing shade at Joe Burrow.
Which has become a quarterback award than Joe Burrow. Did you see the top 100 quarterback? Did you see the top 100 player ranking? Did you see it?
Yes, I
Did you see it?
Yes.
Joe Burrow's not even the second best quarterback on there.
Pray.
Oh, wait, we
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah, that way.
Joe Burrow's not the second best quarterback on there. So how is that not? How is that? That's not me creating a narrative or making it up. Is it fact or fiction? Is it true or false?
It's fact, but you're not contextualizing it properly, if I may say so. When you look at a guy like Jalen Hurts, he took his team to the Super Bowl. He lost in the Super Bowl as a runner-up to Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes beat Joe Burrow to get there. That could be a reason why people were looking at it from that standpoint. It ain't like somebody looked at Joe Burrow and has any questions about his greatness. If anything, Dan Orlovsky, they're taking it for granted. That would be a more accurate
Which is
assessment of what you're
whatever
saying.
you want to
They're
phrase it
taking
as.
it for granted. They're not disrespecting him. They're assuming he's going to be there, that he is elite, and you're almost it's just like you said about Patrick Mahomes.
taking
You
him
said
for
that. You
granted
said
is
that.
not
Patrick
disrespecting him?
No. You've said it before. Patrick Mahomes, we just take for granted what he's going to do instead of appreciating it. And we debated that because we were saying, excuse me, Dan, when you're taking something for granted, you're making the assumption that the level of greatness that you have witnessed is exactly what's going to reappear this upcoming season. That's not disrespecting somebody. That's simply assuming and taking for granted their greatness and saying, hey, you know what, we expect that from you. It's not that big of a deal.
I think
Whereas if
taking
somebody else
someone
is
for
great,
granted,
it is a big deal.
Stephen A., I think taking someone for granted is disrespecting them.
In a
Just to
way,
be
I mean, it's
clear.
not malicious disrespect.
Please,
it's
I don't
not
take it for, I don't get, Molly takes me for granted every day. I don't feel disrespected because of it. She takes me for granted every day, okay? And I don't feel disrespected because of it. I accept it.
Okay, first of all, number one, Stephen A., you got one more time to call me Kim.
Why?
Don't do
You
that.
hate him?
I do not, no.
Sorry, I
No.
called you Kim too.
I love
Should
you.
have never told me that.
What do you want? You always
you gonna say
no,
Steven.
tell me.
You don't say
Should've
Steven,
never
but you
told
say
me.
I don't call you
Molly,
Steve.
Molly
I
sitting
don't
right
call you
next to
Steve.
you. Molly sitting right next to you, and she called you Kim. You said nothing to her, but I'm in L.A. and you gonna get on me.
She's
right? That's what you doing?
disrespecting you, Stephen A.
She's disrespecting
No.
me. She
Time out. Let's
disrespecting me,
get
Dan.
this right.
She
Because Stephen A.
disrespecting
still
me.
thinks my last name is Queerum. So you
a lie.
You want to go by Kimberly.
Kimberly, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. That's number one.
Your real name. Got it.
The only one, Keyshawn will call me Kim with the accent. I don't mind that, but Stephen,
Kimberly.
no.
Pause.
Kimberly.
Kimberly.
Yeah, there we go. The answer is Lamar Jackson for me. And Daniel, it is not about respect and how disrespect and what we don't. Joe Burrow, in my mind, is the second best quarterback in the NFL. However, when it comes to the MVP, Stephen touched on this. Lamar Jackson, unanimous MVP. I'm going to throw out a couple names for you guys.
Yeah.
Marquise Hollywood Brown, Willie Snead, Seth Roberts, Miles Boykin, and Chris Moore. Those were the wide receivers the Ravens had when Lamar Jackson was the unanimous MVP. You know what that wide receiver room looks like now?
Yep.
OBJ, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, and Devin Duvernay. That right there, not only has Lamar Jackson gotten the bag, he's gotten actual help. And Todd Monken, the new OC, there's an ownership. There's a collaboration within this offense where Lamar Jackson understands, yes, they're committed to me and I'm just as committed to them. I want ownership of what we're doing. My input is asked. Not only is it asked, it's expected. He is texting his OC saying, hey, I like this play. Let's do that. Todd Monken's like, all right, let's go. Those are the things that make me say Lamar Jackson is in a position where he has the best roster he's had. That's why I think it's more likely that he would get MVP. It's not about disrespecting Joe Burrow. We all love Joe Burrow. Hey, Daniel?
I think Lamar's going to have a great year as well. Like, I totally agree with everything. I just think Joe Burrow has a better chance of winning MVP because we've seen Joe have 2 years that were absolutely spectacular. And in those 2 years, he's unquestionably become, at worst, the second best quarterback in the NFL. And he has a better offensive line. He did that with a poor offensive line. So if we're going to make the points that Lamar has the better skill position group or best skill position group than he's ever had, then we also have to be fair in talking about that Joe has the best offensive line that he's ever had. And there is an aspect of disrespect here because Joe Burrow Up until the AFC title game last year, he's the only guy that can knock off Patrick Mahomes. And he just about did it again, if not for that offensive line dealing with some injuries in that AFC title game. Credit Kansas City for winning the game. There's no question about it. But to sit here and say that he's the second best quarterback in football, but also I think that someone else has got better chances of winning MVP, and then we're also going to place him as the third best quarterback in football in some voting thing that I have no idea who voted for, and that's an issue of mine as well. And Josh Allen's nowhere in that conversation either. That's where I'm sitting here saying we're losing sight of some stuff, and we're not valuing these quarterbacks in the proper way.
Well, there's a couple of things. Obviously, you're wrong. Nothing new there. That's number one. Number two, you just made your point. We don't know who's voting, so what level of credibility should we attach to them? That we don't know who the hell these people are that are making these assertions, so the hell with them. We can talk about it on our own, but the hell with them, okay? We don't know who they are. They ain't put themselves front and center, put their name on it and stuff like that. That's their damn problem. Number three, as an aside, I just want to mention this. You know, when Kimberly, Kimberly sits there and calls you Daniel, I'm sort of looking at you, Orlovsky, and I'm imagining your hair cut instead of that Elvis high top. You understand? That Vanilla Ice high top. And when she says Daniel, I'm starting to think about James Bond, Daniel Craig. That's what I think about.
No, we're not thinking about that. Nobody's thinking about that.
I said me. I said me. I didn't say everybody. I said me. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking about that. I mean, I'm thinking about that. I'm like, Dan Orlovsky, if he was shorter, you know what I'm saying, and the haircut was flatter, I mean, Daniel, you might be able to pull
Y'all
that.
did your little commercial thing.
Yeah.
Y'all got your little bond.
Yeah. Are we gonna show?
I helped the brother out. I helped him out. I helped him out.
Oh, we have that clip later in the show.
We're going to talk about it.
We should let America vote on that
yesterday.
clip.
No, I was on General Hospital.
Oh, you were in
yesterday,
General Hospital.
And here's the thing. Here's my
Let me
problem.
guess, were you dramatic?
I was on, of course. I was on General Hospital August 7th, and I was on General Hospital yesterday. And Molly never, ever, ever brings up when I'm on General Hospital. Now, I get stopped in the streets of America.
Stephen
I get stopped in the streets of America.
I have a lot going on.
A lot going on.
Britt,
I got a lot.
I got a lot going on,
Britt.
Stephen A. I'm sorry, I forgot to tune into your appearance on General Hospital.
Excuse me. Learn these words, Kimberly, Molly. At the end of the day,